When considering the dangers of alcohol and car accidents, most people think of drunk driving. However, a large percentage of vehicle accidents involve pedestrians who have been drinking, with pedestrian accidents causing thousands of lives each year. Walking drunk is a serious problem. It happened around 1 a.m. when a car with body dangling seen by terrified onlookers, and a man is believed to have driven 4 miles along Interstate 75 in Kentucky with the body of a pedestrian he had mowed down still lodged in his windshield. According to the Covington Police Department, the suspected driver drove for almost 3 miles before he finally pulled over at a Speedway gas station on 5th Street to call for help.
And captured video of a man who said he was a driver talking to police.
Because this guy is walking across the interstate and I swerved to miss him. And
he's on the interstate?
Yeah.
Witnesses say they saw the body dangling off the hood of the vehicle as it was still on 7175 northbound, just north of Kyle's Lane.
Witness Simone Sugarman tells the news media he saw the damaged sedan drive past him while dragging a human body along the roadway.
Cell phone video shows a scene so macabre and bizarre.
I thought it was a prank of some type.
Dr. Sigmund Sugarman, who shot the video and pictures, didn't even think it was real until he heard the panic in the driver's voice.
And the driver came into the store and asked the cashier to call the police, which she did.
Another witness, Shona Hudson, told the news media,
"We don't know where it would have happened, but we just happened to get behind him when he had his flashers on and noticed that something was hanging from his car and was just flapping around, hitting against the ground and just flapping around."
Shauna and Luke Hudson followed the car off 5th Street and had no idea what they were seeing.
And I kept seeing something like hanging out of the passenger window, kind of flopping around like maybe plastic had come loose or a rug was hanging out the window.
The man was later identified as a 51-year-old homeless man who came to northern Kentucky from Oregon and Oklahoma. He was a regular at a parish kitchen in Covington. The assistant manager at parish kitchen said he was a pleasant man. Study shows that people with schizophrenia are 4 to 6 times more likely to perpetrate violent crimes. While the overall crime rate for those with schizophrenia may be lower, they exhibit a higher prevalence of certain crimes like murder. In Tagum City, Philippines, a family tragedy unfolded when a man with mental illness savagely killed his 60-year-old father. According to initial reports from Tagum City Police Station, the father allegedly scolded his son for not coming home for days. In his twisted mind, the son attacked his father with a machete, severed his head and threw it in the river. The suspect attempted to bury the body nearby, but in unknown reason, he just left. Police went down by the riverside where the father and son lived. At the crime scene, they discovered blood all over the place and suspicious items believed to be a murder weapon. One particularly disturbing detail is the discovery of the victim's heart, found hung on a mangrove tree by the suspect. Police also found kitchenwares believed to have been used in the crime, including a pan with a gut inside about to be cooked. Neighbors reportedly saw him holding a scythe as if he's a Grim Reaper. They tried to approach him, but he ran. Eventually, he was apprehended by the police.
Hawak na siya ng Tagum City Police at nakatakdang sampahan ng reklamong parricide.
Worldwide, a significant number of crimes go unsolved each year, is nearly 340,000. According to Cold Case Homicide Stats, several prominent cold cases remain unsolved worldwide, captivating public interest and frustrating investigators. In March 31, 1922, a German family and their new maid were brutally murdered on their farm. However, the family's patriarch had reported several strange incidents in the months before the murders. Footprints in the snow that led directly to the farmhouse, but no tracks led back. An unfamiliar newspaper appeared on the doorstep. Strange footsteps echoed around the property, and tools vanished without a trace. The most famous unsolved crime is dubbed as the Hinterkaifeck murders. The investigation took a chilling turn when police discovered evidence suggesting that the murderer may have been hiding in the attic before the crime. Days passed and the farm remained eerily quiet. Neighbors noticed that no one had seen the Gruber family, and strange behavior was reported. The chimney had still smoke spilling, livestock was well fed, and the family dog roamed freely in the yard. Someone was still tending to the farm. One curious item the investigators found was a set of keys to the house that had been missing for some time. It seemed likely the murderer had been in possession of these keys long before the night of the murders, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. The United States is the highest documented serial killers, with whopping 3,613 serial killers as of 2020. Serial killer statistics indicates that the U.S. has a significantly larger number of serial killers compared to other countries. Infamous serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, known as the Milwaukee Monster, who was convicted of 15 homicides, admitted to cooking and eating some of his victims.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
In fact, he even gave the people in his apartment building sandwiches, which may have contained their flesh. Dahmer was also known to drill holes in the heads of his victims before injecting acid in their brains in a bid to turn them into a compliant zombies. In fact, the life of one such victim could have been spared had Dahmer not been so charming to the police. A significant number of serial killers demonstrate post-mortem manipulation, mutilation, and in some cases, cannibalism of their victims. Study shows that cannibalistic serial killers displayed distinct patterns such as being planned, organized, and driven by sadism, whilst those who did not cannibalize their victims were more likely to be driven by the ultimate goal of disposing of evidence. Leonarda Cianciulli was an Italian serial killer, a mother who would do anything to protect her children. Better known as the soup maker or Correggio, Cianciulli was well respected. People went to her shop for good advice and companionship. She was a sweet person, according to people who have known to her. What they didn't know, Cianciulli was an ultimate manipulator. She had a long history of fraud. A kind of person who callously commit crime, but at the same time, worshiping God. She was a devoted churchgoer, but also believed superstitious magic. She's absolutely delusional. Allegedly, she became paranoid when a fortune teller who said that she would marry and have children, but that all of the children would die young. Thereafter, she became overprotected of her children, and when her firstborn child wanted to join army, Cianciulli's fears lead to series of gruesome crimes. She murdered 3 women and turned their bodies into soup and tea cakes. She believed that if she take life of others, her son would be saved from the war. But then again, Cianciulli was also known for some other crime. She was convicted of fraud in 1927. Her first victim was Faustina Setti, a lifelong spinster who had come to her for help in finding a husband. Cianciulli told her of a suitable partner, but asked her to tell no one of the news. She also persuaded Setti to write letters and postcards to her relatives and friends. After that, Cianciulli killed her with an axe. She apparently received Setti's life savings of 30,000 lira. The second victim was Francisca Suavi. Cianciulli claimed to have found her a job at a school for girls. Like with Setti, Cianciulli persuaded her to write postcards to be sent to family and friends. After that, you know what happened. She drugged and killed her with an axe. Cianciulli disposed of the body in the same way as Setti's and is said to have obtained 3,000 lira. Cianciulli's third and final victim was the widow Virginia Cacioppo, a former soprano said to have sung at La Scala. For her, Cianciulli claimed to have found work as the secretary for a mysterious impresario. The pattern of the murder was the same. However, unlike the first 2 victims, Cianciulli melted the body to make soup.
She ended up in the pot, like the other 2. Her flesh was and white. When it had melted, I added a bottle of cologne, and after a long time on the boil, I was able to make some most acceptable creamy soap. I gave bars to neighbors and acquaintances. The cakes, too, were better. That woman was really sweet.
The deceitful lady reportedly received 50,000 lira as her jewel and public bans. She even sold all the victims' clothing and shoes. Serial killers often employ a mass obscenity to hide their true psychopathic tendencies and appear normal. Several serial killers have been described as charming and charismatic, which often contribute to their ability to lure victims.
What's your best time?
The best time is at nighttime.
Ted Bundy is a prime example, known for his good looks and manipulative charm, which he used to gain the trust of women before assaulting and murdering them. Bundy's ability to live a double life continues to be puzzling. How did he attend college, build a political career, and have a long-term relationship, all while assaulting and murdering at least 30 women between 1973 and 1978? Bundy was particularly interesting because he was charming and articulate. Many wondered, how could a clean-cut law student with no criminal record be responsible for dozens of murders? According to criminal psychology, Bundy was not unique in being a serial murderer. In fact, he was interviewed by Harvey Clay, who is considered to be the father of psychopathy. He diagnosed Bundy as a psychopath. Psychopath is a personality trait that falls under antisocial personality disorder. People with antisocial personality disorder have a long-term pattern of violating the rights of others without any remorse. Psychopathy is more common than most people realize. Statistically, there are about 80 million psychopaths roaming amongst us. They work very hard at flattering those people around them, maintaining their deceitful image. Terrible person doing something great. Ted Bundy actually once worked at a suicide hotline, helping lonely people to stay alive. One particular news that will amaze you: Ted Bundy once saved a toddler from drowning. It says the boy fell into Green Lake in Seattle and started to drown. Bundy was the only person who saw the child, and he jumped into the water to save him. Of sexual abuse cases reported to law enforcement, 93% of juvenile victims know the perpetrator, with many of them are family friends. According to perpetrators of violence statistics, in Great Falls, Montana, a serial molester, Nathaniel Bar Jonah, who posed as a friendly neighbor. He was known for his hospitality, frequently inviting friends and family over. His modus operandi, including luring children with promises of food or money, gaining their trust before subjecting them to unspeakable horrors. Even more sickening, he also gained trust of his victims' parents, even allowing their little children sleep over with this man. One mother recalls her little boy ran home crying, but when asked why, the boy didn't answer, and the parents just blew it off as though it was not a big deal. What they didn't know, that Bar Jonah had a long history of repeated assault towards children across America. He got in and out imprisoned even had the chance to legally change his name upon his release from David Paul Brown to Nathaniel Benjamin Levi Bar Jonah. When asked why, he simply said he wanted to know what it feels like to be discriminated and persecuted as a Jew.
In fact, his ethnic ancestry was Scandinavian, and his parents were both active Christian. He did not pursue any further connection to Judaism other than the name change.
Bar Jonah targeted children between 5 and 15 years old. In most of his confirmed crimes, he drove a white car, pretended to be a police officer. After getting the victims in his car, he would drive over to a secluded place, torture, and sexually assaulted them. He then sit on his victims, believing he would knock them unconscious. One victim was able to escape after pretending he was dead. The boy managed to find help, leading shortly thereafter to Bar Jonah's arrest. In his apartment, investigators discovered thousands of photos of children and a bizarre journal written in code. The journal was sent to FBI to be decoded, while the police began looking into the possibility that Bar Jonah had murdered Zach Ramsey, the 10-year-old boy who disappeared in 1996. Even more disturbing, the diary detailed his plans to cook and eat children.
Barbecue, sex a la carte, my little dessert, little boy stew, little boy pot pies, and lunch is served on the patio with roasted child were all entries in Bar Jonah's twisted writings.
It was believed that Bar Jonah killed Zach Ramsey and fed the boy's remains to guests at his barbecues, and that human hair was found in the meat grinder at his apartment. In his trial, 3 other boys came forward and described how their neighbor Bar Jonah had put a rope around their neck and hung them from the kitchen ceiling. All testified about sleepovers and how the man had touched them. What no one could mention was the other crime of Bar Jonah was charged with. A crime so heinous, both trials had to be moved to other towns. All former neighbors in Great Falls, the boy said, they often watched movies at Bar Jonah's apartment and occasionally stayed overnight. Even more disturbing, Bar Jonah convinced some of the boys to write him friendly letters.
Nathan, you treated me really nice. You never harmed me in any way. I really miss you, big guy. You were like the dad I never had.
One mother testified that she too wrote a friendly letter to Bar Jonah in jail because he had asked the family to do so. She did not know until months later when police contacted her that Bar Jonah might have molested her son. Just like Bar Jonah, the following case is similar, proven there are a lot of him living amongst us. Joseph Roy Metheny was a convicted serial killer and rapist. In 1990s, Metheny was given the unique nickname Tiny, as he was 6-footer and extremely wide. He spent much of his time drinking in bars and lived with groups of homeless men in makeshift camps in South Baltimore. Nearly all of his money was spent on crack and liquor. However, he held a steady job as a forklift driver and was described as intelligent, well-spoken, and very well-mannered. Metheny proudly claimed to have killed 13 people between 1976 and 1996, but sufficient evidence was only found to convict him of 2 murders. He was serving 2 life sentences for kidnapping, sexual assault, and 2 counts of murder. Police say he killed 2 women in 1994 and 1996 and buried their remains under his trailer. It is believed he would gut his victims and then mix their flesh with animal meat to sell as burgers. He said the only time he felt vaguely guilty was when children ate the sandwiches, but even then, Metheny justified his actions by telling himself,
"It was their parents' fault for being so stupid and allowing them to eat it."
The rise of social media influencers is a well-documented trend, and their influence continues to grow, impacting people's behavior, especially young adults and teenagers. Some influencers may chase attention for validation, while others simply want to express their emotions. While not exactly a crime, this made headlines, and this is mind-boggling. A pretty young lady from Argentina legally married herself, then filed for divorce the next morning. Sophie announced her nuptials to her followers, donning a white bridal gown and a gold tiara. She also posted another picture, claiming she baked a cake to celebrate the big day.
Today, in the most spurious moments of my life, I bought a wedding dress and cooked a wedding cake to marry myself.
Many people supported her for showcasing the value of self-love. One follower commented, "It looks beautiful on you, Amika, and whoever says otherwise is a terrible lizard." Social media users had strong thoughts about her decision, with some supporting Sophie, while others said the whole thing was for attention. The tweet had more than 1 million views and 36,000 likes. However, after only 24 hours of claiming she had married herself, she tweeted,
"I married myself, but 24 hours later I was considering divorce. I just couldn't take it anymore."
The famous influencer, who was cheered up by many for embracing self-love, can't stand the fact that she's married and wanted to get a divorce from herself. This prompted a lot of reactions from social media users, who were mostly left shocked.